The Final Detail by Harlan Coben. Copyright 1999 by Harlan Coben. This recording of the full-length reading of The Final Detail was published by arrangement with Delacorte Press, an imprint of Dell Publishing, a division of Random House, Incorporated, and was produced in 1999 by Books on Tape, Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Neither this recording nor any part thereof may be reproduced or used for any purpose without prior written authority from Books on Tape, Incorporated. This book is read by Jonathan Marosz. The Final Detail by Harlan Coben. This book consists of 40 chapters and is 305 pages long. The following material appears on the dust jacket of the book. From the award-winning author of One False Move comes Harlan Coben's most mesmerizing and emotionally charged novel to date. Harlan Coben is the author of 5 previous Myron Bolitar novels: One False Move, Backspin, the Edgar Award and Shamus Award-winning Fade Away, Drop Shot, and Deal Breaker, which won an Anthony Award and received an Edgar Award nomination for Best Original Paperback. He lives in New Jersey with his wife, daughter, and 2 sons. Dedication for Aunt Evelyn in Revere, with lots and lots of love, and in memory of Larry Gerson, born 1962, died 1998. Close your eyes, and you can still see the smile. Chapter 1. Myron lay sprawled next to a knee-knockingly gorgeous brunette, clad only in a Class B felony bikini, a tropical drink sans umbrella in one hand, the aqua-clear Caribbean water lapping at his feet, the sand a dazzling white powder, the sky a pure blue that could only be God's blank canvas, the sun as soothing and rich as a Swedish masseur with a snifter of cognac. And he was intensely miserable. The 2 of them had been on this island paradise for, he guessed, 3 weeks. Myron had not bothered counting the days. Neither, he imagined, had Therese. The island seemed as remote as Gilligan's. No phone, some lights, no motor car, plenty of luxury, not much like Robinson Crusoe, and, well, not as primitive as can be, either. Myron shook his head. You can take the boy out of the television, but you can't take the television out of the boy. At the horizon's midway point, slicing toward them and ripping a seam of white in the aqua-blue fabric, came the yacht. Myron saw it, and his stomach clenched. He did not know where they were exactly, though the island did indeed have a name, St. Bacchanals. Yes, for real. It was a small patch of planet owned by one of those mega cruise lines that used one side of the island for passengers to swim and barbecue and enjoy a day on their own personal island paradise. Personal. Just them and the other 25,000 touristas squeezed onto a short stretch of beach. Yup, personal, bacchanal-like. This side of the island, however, was quite different. There was only this one home, owned by the cruise line's CEO, a hybrid between a thatched hut and a plantation manor. The only person within a mile was a servant. Total island population, maybe 30, all of whom worked as caretakers, hired by the cruise line. The yacht shut off its engine and drifted closer. Therese Collins lowered her Bollé sunglasses and frowned. In 3 weeks, no vessel except the mammoth cruise liners — they had subtle names like the Sensation, or the Ecstasy, or the G-Spot — had ambled past their stretch of sand. "Did you tell anybody where we were?" she asked. "No. Maybe it's John." John was the aforementioned CEO of said cruise line, a friend of Therese's. "I don't think so," Myron said. Myron had first met Therese Collins, well, a little more than 3 weeks ago. Therese was on leave from her high-profile job as primetime anchorwoman for CNN. They both had been bullied into going to some charity function by well-meaning friends, and had been immediately drawn to each other, as though their mutual misery and pain were magnetic. It started as little more than a dare. Drop everything and flee. Just disappear with someone you found attractive and barely knew. Neither backed down, and 12 hours later they were in St. Martin. 24 hours after that, they were here. For Myron, a man who had slept with a total of 4 women in his entire life, who had never really experienced one-night stands, even in the days when they were fashionable, or ostensibly disease-free, who had never had sex purely for the physical sensation and without the anchors of love or commitment, the decision to flee felt surprisingly right. He had told no one where he was going or for how long, mostly because he didn't have a clue himself. He'd called Mom and Dad and told them not to worry, a move tantamount to telling them to grow gills and breathe underwater. He'd sent Esperanza a fax and gave her power of attorney over MB Sportsreps, the sports agency they now partnered. He had not even called Wynne. Therese was watching him. "You know who it is." Myron said nothing. His heartbeat sped up. The yacht came closer. A cabin door in the front opened, and, as Myron feared, Wynne stepped out on deck. Panic squeezed the air out of him. Wynne was not one for casual drop-bys. If he was here, it meant something was very wrong. Myron stood. He was still too far to yell, so he settled for a wave. Wynne gave a small nod. "Wait a second," Therese said. "Isn't that the guy whose family owns Lockhorn Securities?" "Yes. I interviewed him once, when the market plunged. He has some long, pompous name." "Windsor Horn Lockwood III, Myron said. "Right, weird guy." She should only know. "Good-looking as hell," Therese continued, in that old-money country club, born with a silver golf club in his hands kind of way. As though on cue, Wynne put a hand through the blonde locks and smiled. "You two have something in common," Myron said. "What's that?" "You both think he's good-looking as hell." Therese studied Myron's face. "You're going back?" There was a hint of apprehension in her voice. Myron nodded. "Wynne wouldn't have come otherwise." She took his hand. It was the first tender moment between them in the 3 weeks since the charity ball. That might sound strange. Lovers alone on an island, the sex constant, who had never shared a gentle kiss or a light stroke of soft words. But their relationship had been about forgetting and surviving. Two desperate souls standing in the rubble, with no interest in trying to rebuild a damn thing. Therese had spent most days taking long walks by herself. He'd spent them sitting on the beach and exercising and sometimes reading. They met up for food, sleep, and sex. Other than that, they left each other alone to, if not heal, at least stave off the blood flow. He could see that she, too, had been shattered, that some recent tragedy had struck her deep and hard and to the bone. But he never asked her what had happened, and she never asked him either. An unspoken rule of their little folly. The yacht stopped and dropped anchor. Wynne stepped down onto a motorized dinghy. Myron waited. He shifted his feet, bracing himself. When the dinghy was close enough to the shore, Wynne snapped off the motor. "My parents?" Myron called out. Wynne shook his head. "They're fine." "Esperanza?" Slight hesitation. "She needs your help." Wynne stepped gingerly into the water, almost as though he expected it to hold his weight. He was dressed in a white button-down Oxford and Lily Pulitzer shorts, with colors loud enough to repel sharks. The yacht yuppie. His build was on the slight side, but his forearms looked like steel snakes, coiling beneath the skin. Therese stood as Wynne approached. Wynne admired the view without ogling. He was one of the few men Myron knew who could get away with that. Breeding. He took Therese's hand and smiled. They exchanged pleasantries. Fake smiles and pointless bandies followed. Myron stood frozen, not listening. Therese excused herself and headed to the house. Wynne carefully watched her saunter away. Then he said, "Quality derriere." "Would you be referring to me?" Myron asked. Wynne kept his eyes keenly focused on the, target. "On television, she's always sitting behind that anchor desk," he noted. "One would never guess that she had such a high-quality derriere." He shook his head. "It's a shame, really." "Right," Myron said. "Maybe she should stand a couple of times during each broadcast. Twirl around a few times, bend over, something like that." "There you go." Wynne risked a quick glance at Myron. "Take any action snapshots? Perhaps a videotape?" "No, that would be you," Myron said. "Or maybe an extra perverse rock star." "Shame." "Yeah, shame, I got that." Quality derriere. "So, what's wrong with Esperanza?" Therese finally disappeared through the front door. Wynne sighed softly and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?